Welcome back to Round the Cauldron. I'm Megan, here to shed light on Wicca from a modern perspective. This podcast is produced every Monday, sometimes educational, sometimes philosophical, and always honest. Remember to follow the show on social media. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Round the Cauldron, on Twitter at Round the Cauldron without the D, and at my website roundthecauldron.com. You can also help support this show by becoming a patron at patreon.com/roundthecauldron and pledging as little as $1 a month to get patron-only perks. Don't forget to check out my shop as well at roundthecauldron.com/shop to check out the tarot readings I offer as well as some other mystical items. So I have an announcement or two. Two? I don't know. Yeah, two. So first off, my YouTube channel is back up and running. I'm recording every podcast as a video as well, so if you prefer to watch videos, or if you want to watch both, go ahead and click the link in the show notes to head over to my YouTube channel. I will also be working on recording YouTube-specific content, so any videos that have to do with other YouTube channels or tutorials or whenever I feel like recording a video. So, like I said, the link will be in the show notes. Also, if you sign up to be a patron over on Patreon during the month of August, you'll get a special handwritten thank you note from me, as well as a little surprise. So head on over to Patreon at patreon.com/roundthecauldron and join me for as little as $1 a month. Now, if you can't pledge anything, or if you don't want to, that's totally fine. It's 100% okay. What you could do for me instead, I would really appreciate it if you shared the show with your friends, your family, whoever you think would listen. That really helps me out too. And you can share the podcast, you can share my website, you can share my YouTube channel, you can share my Patreon. Whatever it is that you want to share, if you can't pledge, I'd really appreciate it. Are you ready to hop into today's topic? Grab some coffee, pull up a seat, and join me around the cauldron. So, I don't really have a working topic for today. My brain has been really scattered around because of all of the crap that's been going on in the country right now. With the El Paso and Dayton and my I feel like my energy, my heart has been sort of thrown out of whack. And so I guess the working title for this episode is Be a Good Person, Damn It. I don't really know how else to describe it. And I know this show normally airs on the side of teaching and being more educational, but it's in my tagline. Sometimes educational, sometimes philosophical, and always honest. That's what you'll get here at Round the Cauldron. So I guess I have an idea of how I want this episode to go. I've just been having trouble forming my thoughts into words. Words are hard right now. And nothing has happened to me personally, but it does affect me. And I don't know if it's because I'm more spiritually in tuned, I'm more open to the things that go on in the world, or if it's because of my anxiety and my depression. I don't know. But I wanted to talk about these issues from a pagan perspective, and then I really want to take the religion out of it, because I think that's one of the only ways that we can really come to a solid conclusion on how to solve these problems. So first of all of the stuff that's been going on obviously is not happening because of spiritually inclined people. From my perspective, anyway. I mean, as a Wiccan, as someone who follows the read or tries to follow the read to the best of my ability, that's not something that I would go do. That's not something I would ever entertain the idea of doing or anything like it. Just the thought of it, honestly, gives me, like, it makes my heart hurt. It makes me hurt here. Um, it is a really heavy topic, so if it's not a topic that you can handle right now, that's totally fine. If it's not a topic that you can handle at all, I get it. I get it. It's okay. I'm not going to be hurt if you turn the episode off, turn the show off. You're not going to hurt my feelings. However, before you turn it off, I just want you to go away with the message, be a good person. Okay? So, if you're sticking around, let's go through, let's analyze the reasons that these politicians are saying that these things are happening. I try not to be political, but I have grown more in my spirituality. I have grown more in my faith and as a human being and within my witchcraft. And I know that it is inherently political. There are several good articles written by people who write for Patheos, and I'll link those in the show notes. For the podcast, I'll also link them in the video description for anybody that is watching this on YouTube. For anybody watching live over on Patreon, I will post those links when the show is over. But those articles go through and they describe how witchcraft is inherently political. By choosing to follow this path, to pursue the path of witchcraft, we are inherently placing ourselves in a position of political limbo. That's not the right word. I don't want to say political power, but by coming out and saying, I am a witch, I practice magic, this is my faith and this is my belief system, you can politically ostracize yourself. I mean, we see the terms being used now. We've seen the terms being used since President Trump was running for office. Witch hunts. There will always be those terms. And publicly proclaiming that you are a practicing witch can politically ostracize you. However, I think that as witches, as people who hold sometimes spiritual beliefs, not all witches do. Some witches are secular and their faith is separate from their witchcraft. That's fine. But as people who hold these beliefs, I think we have a responsibility to do what we can to make the world a better, more inclusive, more kind, more peaceful place to live in. And it seems counterintuitive, but we kind of need to take religion out of the argument. And I'll explain why in a second. But I want to go over and I want to give the reasons why these politicians that I've heard of are saying that all of this violence is happening. The first reason that the politicians are saying this violence is happening is due to mental illness. I've also heard that they are blaming video games, violent video games. I've heard that they're blaming a lack of religion. I've heard that they're blaming I, random things that have been invented in the last 20 years because that's when this uptick in violence has happened. But mental illness is not the problem. It has never been the problem, in my opinion, because if mental illness was a problem, we would have a lot we would have a lot more of these violent outbursts and violent attacks going on. And the United States wouldn't be the only country that has this issue because mental illness it's a worldwide thing. It's not just the United States that has people living with a mental illness. It's not. And if mental illness were the problem, I've been diagnosed with four mental illnesses. I don't have the urge to go buy a gun and take out a bunch of people. Absolutely not. Mental illness is not the problem. If I'm remembering correctly, it is statistically shown that people with a mental illness or a mental disability are more likely to be the victims of violence instead of the perpetrators. I'll see if I can find a link for that and post it in the show notes in the video description. If I'm wrong, I'll post the link as well, and I'll make a little note that says, "Hey, by the way, I was wrong." But I don't think I'm wrong. So the next thing that they are blaming this violence on is violent video games. Violent video games. Video games have been around forever. Well, not forever. You know what I mean. Video games have been around for a while. And the United States is not the only country that has a high player number of violent video games. We're not even number one. There are other countries who have a higher number of people who play violent video games that also have a lower number of violent attacks like we just had in the last week. We had 2 mass shootings in the United States in less than 24 hours. If that doesn't scare you, then I don't know what will. But violent video games are not the cause at all. Because if they were the cause, we would not be the only country that has this kind of thing happen. We wouldn't be. And I don't even remember the third thing that they were blaming. Oh, the lack of religion. Okay. So lack of religion is supposedly the problem according to these politicians. I don't understand what religion has to do with someone getting a weapon and going and killing a large or even a small number of people. What does religion have to do with that? Are they killing people in the name of God? Are they killing people in the name of the devil? Or any other deity or being or higher power? I don't think so. Lack of religion is not a problem. There's been people who have even said, we need to bring religion back to our schools. No, absolutely not. You will not be teaching my child religion. I don't teach my child religion. Do you know why? Because she needs to be able to make up her mind for herself. And if she wants to pray, she is more than welcome to pray. If she has questions, she is more than welcome to ask me questions, and I will give her an honest answer, and we will find the answer and the proof or the research. We will find it together. But bad things still happen to people that have religion. The Crusades were a thing, guys. The Crusades were a thing, and those atrocities were performed in the name of Christ. Why? What makes you think bringing religion back into the schools and back into the lives of all of the children across the country is going to do anything? It's not going to do anything at all. So I'm going to say I'm going to say what I think in regards to all of this, and some people might agree with me, some people might not agree with me. That's fine. But the problem, in my opinion, is the attitude that some of the people in this country have towards other people, as well as the platform being used by some of our leaders in this country to incite hatred and racism indirectly or directly. Now, what I mean, let me form my thoughts here, because I don't want to get ahead of myself and I don't want to go on a really, really long rant about my political beliefs, because that's not entirely what my show is about. As as a Wiccan, as a pagan, I try to live with the mindset that everyone else around me is equal to me and I am equal to them. This is regardless of race, gender, sex, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, whatever. That is how I live my life. I know that these other people who are different from me are still equal to me, even though they are different. However, not everyone thinks like I do. Not everyone understands that I am human. You are human. They are human. The person committing the atrocities is human. The person who died was human. None of the other factors and labels should matter when it comes to your opinion of another person. But since not everybody thinks like that, I have to understand and I have to realize that the people who are marginalized, people of color, people in the LGBTQ community, they are marginalized and they feel the prejudice and the bias and the fear. And I can't take away from that. So when we have a leader who purposefully, in my opinion, incites hatred, racism, and violence towards any other group of people, I have a responsibility as a human being to stand up and say that it is wrong. To stand up and say that the people are not necessarily the problem. They have a lot to learn, but it's the leaders in powerful positions who are using their platforms to incite hatred and racism and talk about invasions and telling people to go back to the country that they came from and talking about other countries as shithole countries. That's the problem. That's part of the problem. Another part of the problem is how easy people can get their hands on these violent and deadly weapons. Now, I'm not going to have a a gun control debate on my channel because it can be a gray area. And I understand that. I'm not here to discuss that. I am here to, I don't know what I'm here to do. At this point, sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes it feels like it's time to give up. Which is a terrible thing to say. It's terrible. And I know it's not time to give up. We still have a lot to fight for, and we still have a lot to accomplish. And we still have a lot of change that needs to happen. And it's very overwhelming, to say the least. Very overwhelming when we are confronted with all of the hatred, with all of the violence, with all of the racism, with everything that's been going on recently. But it's not always been recently. It's been happening for a long time. But certain events and certain people have allowed for the extremists to come out of the woodworks and really put themselves in the limelight. I don't know. If I knew how to solve all of these problems, they wouldn't be problems anymore. We would be able to go to Walmart, send our children to school, go to a festival, go to a concert. We'd be able to do all of those things without fear. But I don't have all the answers. I wish I had all the answers. The only thing that I can tell you is step back, try to look at the situation and the problems without the lens of religion coloring your vision. Because even without my faith, even without my religion and my beliefs, I'm still a good person. I still believe that everyone is equal. I still believe that everyone should have the same opportunities. Everyone deserves a chance at life. No one deserves to be gunned down when they're shopping. No one deserves to be gunned down while they're sitting at school trying to learn and they haven't even lived half their life. I know these things to be fact. They are fact. No one deserves that. And I don't need religion to tell me any different. I don't need religion to tell me that I'm right either. And neither do you. So, I don't need religion to tell me that what happened at that Trump rally was wrong. I'll link to the video for that in the show notes too. But it was President Trump at a rally or something, giving a speech and talking about the Mexican invasion, the immigration problem that he says we have, the immigration issue, asking how you deal with the people coming across the border. And somebody in the crowd yelled out that you shoot them. Let that sink in. Someone in a crowd at his rally felt comfortable enough to bring up the idea of murder without fear of being reprimanded. And whoever did it wasn't reprimanded. You know what happened? President Trump laughed. He may have laughed for just a second, but he still laughed. And if that doesn't show hatred, I don't know what does. It's either hatred or uh he doesn't care at all. One or the other. He either cares so much that he hates it, or he cares so little that he just laughs. I'm speechless. I'm speechless. Because in my eyes, that's a threat. That's a threat. And if one person felt bold enough and comfortable enough to yell out, shoot them in the middle of a crowd on television, and to have the president laugh about it, that shows every other person out there who has extreme racist ideologies, who thinks that white people, because of the color of their skin, are superior to everyone else, that essentially, in their mind, would give them the go-ahead to take matters into their own hands and solve the problems themselves, vigilante style. And you know what? The president doesn't say anything. He says something, we need unity instead of racism. Okay, but he is part of the problem. And I'm going to circle this back around here. Be a good person. Just be a good person. Don't hate other people just because of the color of their skin. Just because they love someone differently than you. Just because they look different. Hatred doesn't have a place in my heart. Not even for the President of the United States. I may dislike him. I may disagree with his policies. I may think that he doesn't have any place or reason to be president of this country. But if I hold hatred in my heart towards him and people like him, I am no better than he is. So be a good person and do what you can for yourself, for your family, and for your community to stand up for what you believe in, but don't hold hatred in your heart. Stand up for those people who are being marginalized. Be an ally for the people of color, for the women, for the LGBTQ community, for trans people. Be an ally. Don't be part of the problem. Until next time, everyone. Bye.